Okay, here we go with some quiz review. I suggest you watch all of this video first before taking your quiz. Okay, so going over some questions that people asked. First one that people asked about was doing some fraction problems. So on 17 and 18, we need to look for a common denominator. Okay, and my common denominator on this one is 20. And the reason is because I could do multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 10, 20. Okay? So we know that whenever we multiply by something like 4 over 4, that's the same thing as multiplying by 1. So we're changing the number, but it's just like we are unreducing a fraction. Typically, we deal with reduced fractions. We deal with 1/2 instead of 2/4. But to create these common denominators, we're just going to make the bottoms all match. Okay, so in order to do this, like for example, on this first one, I'm going to take my 2x divided by 5, okay, and I'm going to multiply that by 4 over 4, because that's going to give me a denominator of 20. Right, my second one here, then I have 9/10. Well, how do I get from 10 to 20? Well, I multiply by 2 over 2. Because again, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And if I multiply across, that'll give me 20. On this last one, I don't actually have to change anything. So that's just going to stay as 7/20. So when I do this here, I'm going to have 8x. 2x times 4 is 8x divided by 20. And then here, I'm going to have 9 times 2 is 18. 10 times 2 is 20, right? And then my 7/20 drops down. Now that I've done that, okay, since I have the same thing on the bottom, they're all going to cancel. And now I can just do 8x plus 18 equals 7. So I can subtract 18, and 8x equals negative 11 divided by 8, and x equals negative 11 over 8. Now, if this is a multiple choice quiz you're taking, hint, hint, maybe negative 11/8 is not an answer, but negative 1 and 3/8 is. How did I do that? Well, we know that 8 over 8 equals 1. So I pulled out 8 over 8 from the top, and that left me with 3 left over. So those are my two possible answers. Moving on to the next one here. On this one, this is really 2 over 1. If that helps you looking at it like that, that's fine. Okay, what's the common denominator between 8 and 3? Well, sometimes I can just do 8 times 3. And that's going to give me 24. So that's probably my common denominator. Although sometimes, like, if I think of numbers like if it was 6 and 4, you can do 6 times 4 and get 24. But we also know that another common denominator that's smaller is 12. 6 times 2 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. So you can always multiply them if you only have two bottoms. It would have been harder on 17 where we had 3 bottoms, but you can always do, that's another way to come up with it. 8, 16, 24, and we know 3 times 8 is 24. So what are we going to do here? So I have to take that 8 and multiply, and I'm going to do this a little quicker than I did the last one. Both of these have to get multiplied by 3 over 3, because 8 times 3 is 24. So I'm left with 2 over 1, right? And so we'll just leave that as 2 over 1 right now, and I'll come back to that. Okay? So I don't want to start over after recording 5 minutes of video. So hang tight on that for a second. So and let me finish this part up here because that's where we're at. So we multiply this by 3 over 3. And that's going to give me 9t over 24. Then I'm going to subtract this. I got to multiply these by 8 over 8. Okay, so I have 16 over 24. And now, this is the silly part here, circling back to this here. Okay, I need a common denominator of 24 here. Okay, so I don't want 2 over 1. I need a common denominator of 24. Well, in order to get there, really what I'm multiplying this top by, 2 over 1, I'm multiplying by 24 over 24. So I don't want 2 over 1, I want 24, and 24 times 2 is 48. So that's really what I need over here, because all 3 of my bottoms have to match. So, sorry, you can erase that part there. Make sure you have 48 over 24. I just jumped the gun on that a little bit and started to focus on this over here. Okay, so now cancel our bottoms. And I have 48 equals 9t minus 16. Add 16, add 16. That's 64 equals 9t. Divide by 9, divide by 9. How many times is 9 going to 64? It goes in there 7 times, and 1/9 is left over. Well, real quick, especially if I'm taking a multiple choice test, sometimes you would also have an answer of negative 7 1/9. So I always check my signs, especially if both were a multiple choice answer. You would want to check that. Okay, and I did check this answer here. I paused the screen real quick and just did a quick check. To check this, you would take your 64 divided by 9. And I just use my calculator. I do have a graphing calculator, so it makes it easier for me. I did 64 divided by 9, hit enter. Then I did times 3, hit enter. Then divided by 8, hit enter. And I got 2.666666 repeating. And then if you subtract 2/3, which is 0.6666 repeating, you end up at 2. Okay. Moving down. It's one of these ones where you got to figure out, here's a fraction, but we don't really have to clear this fraction. Okay. Here's how I would do this problem. First of all, I would subtract 4. Okay. Because when I do that, now I'm left with 3x minus 1 divided by 2 equals 5. Okay. So I do that. And then now I can multiply both sides by 2. And that leaves me 3x minus 1 equals 10. Of course, now I can do my problem. 3x equals 11 divided by 3. So I get 11/3 as an answer. Or that would go in there 3 times. And then you'd have 3 2/3. Moving on. These are the identity problems. So this section is identity or no solution. This is off of today's assignment. I think these are pretty basic. This is why we save these for last. So if I do this here, I do a quick distributive property. On this side, nothing changes. 8x minus 9. Over here, though, 4 times 2x is 8x. But 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. So what we notice here is that these match, but these don't. So that's not going to work, because now I need to get my variables to the same side. Subtract 8x from both sides. Negative 9 does not equal negative 36. So when they don't equal each other, no solution. Okay. Over here, though, these are on the same side. So I have to combine like terms because they're on the same side. 12 minus 8 is 4D. And that negative 8 just drops down. Over here, boom, I have my 4 distributed, which gives me 4x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So these things match. And somebody today, might have been one of my former Hill kids, I think it was Emerson, pointed out D and X. Okay, really, this problem should have been an X. So whoever that was, I don't remember off the top of my head, but good job catching that the variables were not the same. Okay, we're only dealing with one variable in Algebra 1. All right, let's get our variables to the same side. What happens is they disappear. Negative 8 does equal negative 8. That makes this an identity. Okay, moving right along. A couple story problems. Okay. This is the one that somebody asked for, so we're going to do this one here in the essence of time. It says apartment A has a $1,000 security deposit plus $1,200 each month. So that's $1,200 a month plus $1,000 for your security deposit. Where'd it go? Okay. And that equals my apartment B, $1,175 each month plus $1,500. Okay, now I need to get these to the same side, so I'm going to subtract 25M plus 1,000 equals 1,500. So it says how many months will it cost for them to be the same? So I finish this up. 25M equals 500. And I take 500 divided by 25, which I think is 20. Yes, it is. So it's going to take 20 months. So if you're not going to live in your apartment there for, at least 20 months, one's going to be better than the other. Okay, and we could go back and we could plug in a couple examples here. You could pick an easy number because it'll say, like, the follow-up question might be like, if you're staying there for 10 months, which one's the better value? So then I would just go back and I would plug in 10 here, and I would plug in 10 here and figure out which one's the better value. And that one would be better for the first 19 months. But then as soon as you get to month 21, it would switch to the other one. Okay. Nobody asked to see this one, but they did ask to see this one. And here's what you guys are missing. This says consecutive even integers. So they're saying like 2, 4, 6, 8. That's consecutive even integers. It says find 2 consecutive integers that are even. So my first one here is x. Okay, what is this one here? If x is equal to 2, how do we get to 4? Well, we just add 2 to it. And if I needed to compare 2 to 6, so I already compared 2 to 4. If I needed to compare 2 to 6, how is 6 different than 2? Well, we said that 2 is x. It is 4 more. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's even or odd. It's the exact same thing, because if we do 3, 5, 7, 9, there's always 2 between the first number, and then 4, and then 6. Even though they're odd, okay, there's still 2 numbers between every odd number. All right? So here it says 2 consecutive numbers. Well, what's my first one? So I'm back to number 5. Okay. So my first number is x. My second number is a consecutive even integer, so that's x plus 2. When I add them together, 2x